Welcome to my channel once again. Um, in a series of videos on accountancy studies for those that want to pursue their career in accountancy. So I started a series of videos, and in the first two of those series, we looked at the International Accounting Standard Board framework. We looked at the definition of it. And I went on to mention that it's very important to have a thorough grounding of the International Accounting Standard Board framework definition because everything else stems from that definition. All international accounting standards, international financial reporting standards, and international auditing standards, ISAs, they all stems from IASB framework. And we went on to define International Accounting Standard Board framework as a coherent system of interrelated objectives and fundamentals that can lead to consistent standards and that prescribes the nature, function, and limits of financial accounting and financial statements. And we went on to look at the 7 elements of financial statement. We look at the definition of an asset, the definition of a liability, the definition of an equity, the definition of an income, the definition of an expense, and prepayments and accruals. So those 7 elements are the elements that make up the financial statements. And obviously, International Accounting Standard Board framework, International Financial Reporting Standards, and International Auditing Standards, what they are doing is 3 things: the recognition of those 7 elements, the measurement of those 7 elements, and the disclosure of those 7 elements. That's what all ISAs, all IFRSs, and International Accounting Standard, IASs. That's what they are all measuring. They are measuring the recognition of these 7 elements of financial statements. They are recognizing them and measuring them and then disclosing them in the financial statement. That's what it's all about. So today I'm going to give you an overview of the trial balance, how those 7 elements of the financial statements, how they come into the bigger picture. Of course, we are looking at the trial balance. And as you can see from the ones I've highlighted in fluorescent light, which is the yellow ones, as you can see, they are all the expenses of one of the companies that I do the accounts. And the ones in blue, of course, those added up, they are the income of the company. And the 2 that are in red, should I say, above, you can see prepayments and accruals. And the one that I've highlighted in a different color, you can see I've written in there their equity, those 2. And at the top, you have the assets, you have fixed assets, you have fixtures and fittings, you have vehicles. All of those, they are assets. And then you have depreciation, and all of those are expenses. So in a nutshell, also we can see liabilities, the amount owed to the bank. So basically, those 7 elements can be seen in this trial balance. So we can see assets, which are the top ones, fixed asset, we can see current asset, vehicles, and we can also see fixtures and fittings. And all of those also have depreciation, which is an expense. So each one of them have depreciation because obviously they have a long-term use. And every year, for instance, our vehicle has to be depreciated by about 20%. Say if the value of the vehicle was £10,000, and we've said we could use it for 5 years, and in this year's account, so we will recognize 20% depreciation, so which means we depreciate our vehicle by £2,000, and then what's going to be on the balance sheet will be 8,000. So we will take that depreciation for that year into account. because this asset, say for instance, our vehicle has 5 years usage. So, but this year we will take 20% of it. So in 5 years time, that vehicle would have been used off completely. So it's not going to be on our balance sheet anymore. But in this instance, it's still going to be on our balance sheet because we've only used 20% of it. So, and the 20%, we're going to take that off from the vehicle's balance. So when we deduct the depreciation, whatever is left is what will be on the balance, on the trial balance. And as you can see, even the buildings that are fixed asset, they have been depreciated as well. So you can see building depreciation, you can see fixtures and fittings depreciation, you can see vehicle depreciation. So that's our asset. And you can see the liability of the company. You can see creditors, those that we owe money to that the company needs to pay. And we can also see the amount the company borrowed from the bank, which is a long-term liability. But the creditors, they are current term liabilities. So which means within 1 year we have to pay our creditors. But the amount of money that we borrow from the bank is huge amount of money, so it's going to be on the trial balance for some time. So as we make payment, we readjust the balancing. We adjust the balancing figure. So today, I'm just going to give you an overview of how the whole thing comes together. So this is the trial balance, and this trial balance comes from the ledger. And each element that you see in this trial balance has what we call a sub-ledger. So if I were to click on cash, for instance, it will take me to how that amount on the TB is made up. So if I clicked on, that amount that we borrowed from the bank, 1.4 million plus, if I clicked on that, it's going to give me a breakdown of how that figure is represented on the trial balance. So as you can see, this is just a quick overview of the trial balance, and you can see these elements of the financial statement in this trial balance. You can see assets, we can see liability, we can see our equity, of course, which is our reserves for the previous period that we still have on the TB, and also our retained earning. We can see it there. So those two, they are equity. So we can see the assets, which are the top ones, fixed asset, current asset. We can see them, as I've said before, you can see building, equipment, vehicles, fixtures and fittings. So all of those, they are our assets. And then the liability that we have, as I've said before, you can look at the creditors, so that we have to pay money to. So that's a liability. And also the amount of money, long-term liability. We hold the bank over 1.4 million. So that's a long-term liability. So as you can see there, you can see our liability and our equity. See our retained earnings and our revaluation surplus. So you can see that those, they are our equity, and the one that I've highlighted in blue, they are our income, as you can see from there. And then the ones in yellow, they are our expenses, and you can also see our prepayments and also our accruals. So those 7 elements that we looked at in the second video, you can see that those 7 elements, they are what make up the trial balance. So in this video, I just wanted to give you an overview of the trial balance. So from the trial balance, obviously, we can construct financial statements. So what are the financial statements that we can construct from this trial balance? I'm just going to list a couple of them. Number 1, we can construct from this trial balance, we can construct our profit and loss account. Number 2, we can construct our balance sheet account from this trial balance. And number 3, we can construct our cash flow statements. And number 4, we can construct our equity statements. So as you can see, That's why I said those 7 elements, they are very, very important. So IASB framework defines how all international accounting standards, international financial reporting standard, and international standards on auditing, how they should be recognizing these 7 elements, how they should be measuring these 7 elements, and how they should be disclosing these 7 elements. That's what it's all about. So for instance, International Accounting Standard Board 1 talks about the presentation of financial statements. So how do we, from this trial balance, extract our profit and loss account? How do we, from this trial balance, extract our balance sheet, and how do we present them? That's what International Accounting Standard Board presentation of financial statements is all about. So this needs to be presented in a way that is consistent. So that's why it's very important to understand IASB framework, a coherent system of interrelated objectives. So these 7 elements, they are interrelated objectives, and they are fundamentals that can lead to consistent standards and that prescribes the nature, the function, and the limits of financial accounting and financial statements. So an overview of the trial balance. So in my next video, I'm going to show you how to construct from this trial balance, how we're going to construct a profit and loss account. And then in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can construct a balance sheet from this trial balance, and also how we can construct our cash flow statements and how we can construct our equity accounts. So obviously, as I said in the first 2 videos, that it is very important to have a thorough grounding of International Accounting Standard Board framework. When you have a thorough grounding of International Accounting Standard Board framework, then you will understand all international accounting standards, international financial reporting standards, and international auditing standards, because all those 3 stems from IASB framework. And in the first video, we looked at the definition of that framework, and in the second video, we looked at the 7 elements that make up the financial statement: assets, liability, equity, income, expenses, prepayments, and accruals, and how those 7 elements are represented in the trial balance. And this is what I'm teaching you right now. As you can see, there's nothing else that is strange in this trial balance. It's a combination of those 7 elements. So that's why I've highlighted the ones that are expenses in yellow, the ones that are income in blue, and our equity in a different color, and also the ones in red. You can see they are the prepayments and the accruals. So in my next video, that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on how to construct profit and loss account from this trial balance. We're going to focus on how to construct balance sheet from this trial balance. We're going to focus on how to construct cash flow statement from this trial balance. And we're going to focus on how to construct our equity account from this trial balance. So thank you for watching. My name is Ola, and I'll catch you in my next video.